You're scrolling through your phone and a memory pops up from a few years ago. A picture of you at a concert or laughing with friends at a place you don't go to anymore. And for a second, you don't feel guilt. You just feel a weird sense of distance. Like, who was that person? And in that moment, it feels like your soul is at peace, but your personality is having an existential crisis. If you know that feeling, you're not alone. Welcome back to Beyond The Shahada. I'm Bree Shaaban. You're probably wondering where I went again. Sorry, I went on a bit of a hiatus. Many of you don't know, I have actually been living in another country, in Egypt, for almost the last year, and we came back to Australia and moved house. So I kind of lost my recording space for a bit, and moving with 2 kids is very chaotic and I am trying and I'm getting there. Inshallah, you enjoy this episode. Also, there are many of you who don't know that I also make Islamic home decor. I created it myself. I actually hand make everything here, right, in Adelaide. Check it out. It's nestandnor.com.au. I'll put the link in the description. And I am offering all of you 20% discount on all products, even sale items, until the end of November. Just use code BEYOND at checkout. I appreciate all of your support so much and for still hanging around with me when I did disappear for a little bit. Let's get into it. Ready? Lately, my social media pages seem to be focusing on women and their hijab, about the struggle to hold on, with some even making the heartbreaking decision to take it off altogether. So today, that's exactly what I want to talk to you about. I am taking the plunge and talking about women taking off the hijab, the sneaky double standards we face, and the connection with that feeling of a lost identity after embracing Islam. The struggles between the person you were and the person you're becoming, and the unanswered question of, where do I fit in? And why feeling that way doesn't make you a bad Muslim. Let's start by talking about what we're seeing online. Lately, my feed is filled with these stories from women, some vague, some full of really deep sorrow, many with millions of views, explaining why they took off their hijab. These aren't celebratory liberation posts. They're raw, they're emotional, and they're often filled with a deep sense of guilt and loss. They talk about the crushing pressure, the constant scrutiny, and the exhausting feeling of being a walking billboard for a faith they're still learning about, while everyone else feels entitled to grade their performance. It's kind of like the world's heaviest piece of fabric, but it's not made of cloth. It's made of everyone else's expectations. Now, before we even get into the comments, let's just sit with that. The courage that takes to know you'll be called, let's be honest, all sorts of names by the non-Muslim world for putting it on, and then labelled a failure for taking it off. It's a no-win situation that revolves around everyone's opinion except her own and her creator's. Before I even touch on why and how we get to this point, I want to take a moment to talk about the sneaky, infuriating double standard that never even receives close to the same amount of attention. In fact, it's become so normalized even inside of the Muslim world. What am I talking about? Men. Let's be real. We see Muslim men whose modesty, let's just say, leaves room for interpretation. We see them walking around in shorts above the knee, shirts off at the beach, exposing their awrah publicly, and the criticism is a slight murmur, if it even exists at all. It's become completely normalized. Even look at smoking. It's often laughed off with a boys will be boys shrug. Men's awrah has become a suggestion, while women's is a mandatory law with strict haram policing, especially online. For a woman, every choice she makes is put under a microscope. the length of her sleeve, the thickness of her scarf? Can you see the shape of her shoulders? Or if she wears niqab, how much of her eyes are showing? What about her forehead? She is held to an impossible photorealistic standard of piety 24/7, while the men around her often get to exist on a sliding scale. Think about this. A woman's faith, or her piety, is measured in society by her outfit. Just let that sit for a moment. That can be a huge burden to bear, especially if your faith is low or you are sinning behind the scenes while having everyone praise you for being so good in Islam based on literally just the way you dress. It fuels that internal conflict. It makes the hijab feel like a costume of a good Muslim girl rather than the sincere act of worship that it's meant to be. And that right there is the core of the internal civil war. You are living with this massive, glaring contradiction. On the outside, you're receiving praise and validation for your piety. People look at you and see the ideal Muslimah. They hold you up as an example to others. You're put on a pedestal of perceived perfection, a living most likely to achieve Jannah award, if you will. And it's a terrifying place to be when you're crumbling under the weight of their expectations. But on the inside, you're just you, a human being, with flaws, with doubts, with struggles, with sins you're not proud of. Maybe you're struggling with prayer. Maybe you have a bad habit you can't kick. Maybe you're just having a crisis of faith and questioning everything. But because you wear the hijab, there's simply no room for that. There's no space for you to be a complex, struggling human being. The hijab, in the eyes of everyone else, flattens you into a single story, the pious one. It's the ultimate performance trap. Your outfit tells a story of perfection that your soul can't possibly live up to every single day. So what happens? That praise starts to feel like a lie. It feels unearned. It creates this immense pressure to be that perfect person that everyone thinks you are, which, let's be realistic, is an impossible standard to maintain. And when you inevitably fall short of that standard, because you're human, the guilt is multiplied by 1,000. You're not just feeling guilty about the sin itself, you're feeling guilty for being a fraud, for kind of tricking everyone. The hijab becomes a constant visible reminder of the gap between who you actually are and who everyone thinks you are. The weight of that guilt isn't just about disappointing God, it's about feeling like you're deceiving an entire community. And this is where the connection to taking it off becomes so clear. For some, taking off the hijab isn't about rejecting God at all. It's about rejecting the unbearable weight of that false narrative. It's a desperate attempt to close that gap, to finally have your outside appearance match your internal messy reality, to just be a sinner like everyone else, without the added burden of being a hypocrite in the world's eyes. It's saying, stop praising me for something I'm not. See me for who I really am, struggles and all. And let my relationship with my Creator be between me and Him. And let's not forget, this is one of the easiest ways of shaitan to get in, to trick you, to make you believe that you are not good enough to wear the hijab. But what about the women who are in the messy middle? The ones who are trying? Maybe she's just started to wear hijab and she's still figuring out her style or her comfort level. Maybe she's been wearing it for years but has a style that some deem not quite enough. The ones who are wearing it but incorrectly, the ones they might show a little bit of hair or some hair at the front or their neck or their chest, and they are being constantly attacked from every angle. And usually when someone is new to Islam and just started wearing the hijab, they are already battling against their own society. Can be their work, their family, their friends. None of them, some of them, maybe, not all, but a good majority of them really don't understand it or have a hard time understanding why you are now wearing hijab. So couple that with the fact of then everyone online telling you you're not wearing it enough, you can see how hard it is to be in that middle. While some women are taking it off to escape the pressure, these women are living right in the eye of the storm. They're putting themselves out there, making an effort, but instead of receiving encouragement for the immense step they've taken, they are overwhelmingly met with a constant stream of corrections. She's trying to build a house of faith, and instead of being handed bricks, people are just pointing out every single crack in the foundation. It's the auntie at the mosque who tugs at her loose scarf and says, "Your hair is showing." It's the anonymous comment online that says, "Exposing yourself like that, you might as well not bother at all." It's the crushing, soul-diminishing criticism that comes from within the very community that should be lifting her up. And the most damaging comment of all, the one that's sometimes delivered with a false sense of piety. If you're not going to wear it properly, you may as well just take it off. Just sit with the toxicity of that for a second. Since when is all or nothing the Islamic standard for any act of worship? Since when did we forget that the journey is itself an act of faith? That statement is so spiritually dangerous. It reduces the hijab to a binary, perfect or worthless, and completely invalidates the struggle, the intention, and the journey. It ignores the fact that faith is a spectrum, that our iman rises and falls, and that Allah values the consistent small effort over the perfect but abandoned one. Telling a struggling woman to just take it off is like telling someone who's struggling to pray 5 times a day to just stop praying altogether if they can't be perfect. It's utterly absurd and completely devoid of mercy. That type of criticism doesn't make her want to try harder. It makes her want to give up. It confirms her deepest fear that she will never be good enough for this community. So she's left in an impossible bind. Endure the constant policing of her every detail, or surrender to the pressure and remove the very thing she's trying to embrace. It's a relentless attack on her self-esteem and her connection to the deen, often from the people she thought were on her team. She's not being welcomed, she's being audited. Now I want to pause here and just zoom out for a moment, because to really understand this, we have to see that this conversation about covering, about modesty, about the external markers of faith is not isolated to only Islam. Coming from a religious background myself, a woman covering was knowledge that I already had. The concept of covering, of veiling is, it's deeply woven into the fabric of plenty of other faiths. And in my case specifically, I had already researched this topic in both Judaism and Christianity. A woman's modesty is not a Muslim invention. It's more like a spiritual heirloom that's shared by many faiths. In Orthodox and conservative Jewish communities, married women cover their hair with scarves, hats, or wigs. They also cover their knees, elbows, or collarbone and avoid tight-fitting clothing. These follow the guidelines of the Jewish laws of modesty. And if we go into any traditional Catholic church, or even just look at paintings of who they depict to be the Virgin Mary, what do we see? A woman covering. For centuries, Christian women wore veils, head coverings, and loose-fitting clothes as a sign of her reverence, especially in church. It's right there in the Bible too. So historically, a woman covering her head is less of a new invention and more of a global norm. Why does any of this matter? Why am I bringing this up? Because it reframes the entire debate. It takes the hijab out of this isolated box where it's seen as this strange or foreign, only Muslim thing, and places it right back where it belongs, in a long, rich history of sacred modesty practiced by people of plenty of faiths for millennia. It reminds us that the impulse to modestly cover is not unique to us. the struggle probably isn't either. You can bet that a Jewish woman choosing her head covering or a Catholic woman adjusting her veil might have also wrestled with questions of identity, societal pressure, and personal faith. This isn't to say all traditions are the same, they're not, but it shows that the tension between faith and fashion, between devotion and identity, is a human one, not just a Muslim one. Understanding the shared history does two things. For the revert, especially one from another faith background, it can be a moment of profound connection. It makes the practice feel less like adopting something entirely new and more like returning to a sacred principle that always existed. And for everyone else, it should dismantle the idea that this is some alien concept. It's a deeply rooted spiritual practice, and that context is everything. If you're listening to this and every word is hitting home, that internal critic is on loudspeaker in your mind, and the pressure feels like it's too much. The thought of taking it off has crossed your mind, not out of defiance, but out of sheer exhaustion. So what do? First, and I cannot stress this enough, breathe. Literally, take a moment to breathe. Be kind to yourself. Your feelings are not a sign of failure. They are data. They are telling you that something in your current approach is unsustainable. Your struggle is not a stop sign on the path of your faith. It's more like a give way. It means slow down, check your surroundings, and proceed with care. Here are a few steps to consider, not as a checklist, but more as a lifeline. Number 1. The first non-negotiable is to do a self-audit. Ask yourself, who am I doing this for? Is it truly for Allah, or has it become about everyone else's expectations? This is the most important question. Re-anchor your intention. This is between you and your creator. Full stop. Find your people. This is also non-negotiable. You need a safe space. Find one, just one, person that you trust implicitly. Another revert, a wise and non-judgmental friend, a counselor, someone you can be brutally honest with without fear of being labeled. Say the quiet part out loud. I'm thinking about taking off my hijab. Number 3 is to focus on the times when you want to take off the hijab. What is happening in those moments? What situations or feelings are you connecting with wanting to remove it? And number 4, make dua from the raw place. Don't make the polished, perfect dua. Make the messy one. Say, Ya Allah, I'm struggling. I feel like a hypocrite. I feel weak. I don't know if I can do this. Please either make this easy for my heart or show me a way through this that pleases you. Ask for clarity, not just for strength. Sometimes the most powerful prayer you can make is just handing Allah the broken pieces and saying, I don't know how to fix this. This journey is yours. Your relationship with Allah is yours. It is deep, it is personal, and it is allowed to be complicated. Grant yourself the grace to navigate it. And remember that whatever issue you're dealing with now will still be there with or without the scarf. Now, let's flip the perspective quickly. What do you do when it's not you, but your sister, your friend, your daughter, someone close to you who makes the decision to take off her hijab? This is where our response is the most critical. Our initial instinct might be to panic, to correct, to lecture, but we have to fight that instinct because how we react in that moment can either push her away from the deen forever or leave a door open for her return. Your reaction to her choice will speak louder than 1,000 sermons that she's ever heard. Here is what to do, and more importantly, what not to do. Do not say, I told you so, or imply she was never strong enough. Never publicly shame her or gossip about her. This is a major sin for you. Never give her an unsolicited lecture about hijab. Do not tell her she's going to hell. You are not the ultimate decider. And do not make it about you and your disappointment. But do listen. Just listen. Say, thank you for trusting me enough to tell me. How are you feeling? Let her lead the conversation. Do affirm her worth. Say, my love for you has not changed one bit. You are so much more than what you wear. Separate her identity from her hijab. Do ask how you can support. Say, what do you need from me right now? The answer might be space. It might be distraction. It might be just to not talk about it. Keep the door open. Say, no matter what, I'm here for you. That will never change. Let her know that your relationship with her is not conditional. Do lead by example. Check your own modesty. Are you showing by example, or are you yourself being hypocritical? And the most important of all, make sincere and private dua for her. Ask Allah to help her, to guide her, and to guide her back to the deen. Our job isn't to be the modesty police. It's to be the heart's guardian. Our role is to love her through the doubt, not just praise her for the faith. Your quiet, unwavering support might be the very thing that someday makes her feel safe enough to try again. But that is her journey, not yours. Our duty is to embody the mercy of Islam, especially when we see someone struggling. So, where does all of this leave us? After talking about the double standards, the internal civil wars, the crushing pressure, and the shared history across faiths, leaves us here with the understanding that the journey of faith is perhaps the most deeply personal journey a human being can ever take. It is not a straight line. It is a spiral. We circle back to the same lessons, the same struggles, but hopefully with a little more wisdom, a little more self-compassion each time. Your path isn't meant to look like anyone else's highlight reel. It's meant to be your authentic, messy, and beautiful story. The goal is not to become a perfect, faultless image of a Muslimah. The goal is to become a sincere servant of Allah. And sometimes sincerity looks like staying the course. And sometimes, in moments of profound honesty, sincerity looks like stepping back to rebuild your foundation on a rock of true faith, not the sand of other people's expectations. So whether you're holding on, letting go, or somewhere in between, your worth is not up for debate. Your identity is not a fixed point. It's a river constantly flowing and evolving, shaped by your intentions, your struggles, and your relentless effort to return, always to return to your Creator. Allah knows the secrets of the heart that the hijab can never cover, and the doubts that the most perfect outfit can never conceal. Although that's it for this episode, this conversation doesn't end here. If this episode made you feel seen, please share it with one person that you think needs to hear it. You never know whose heart you might be helping to heal. I also love hearing the stories you send me, so if you ever want to share, feel free to contact me on Instagram at Beyond The Shahada. Also, if you could please take a moment on whatever platform you are listening to, either follow or subscribe, leave a comment, leave a review, leave a like, anything to just help with the algorithm a bit. Thank you very much. And just again, reminding you that I do have a homewares store, Islamic home decor, and I am offering you a 20% discount on all orders until the end of November. That code is BEYOND, and I will put it in the description as well as a link to the shop, but it is nestanor.com.au. Bye!